Hey, everybody, welcome back to the SoCap Improv Comedy Podcast. My name is Ralph. I'm the owner and artistic director at SoCap Improv Comedy Theater at 154 Danforth Avenue. We do improv classes, shows, corporate events, private bookings. And if you hear anything on this silly old thing that sparks your interest, come and take a class with me at ralph@socap.ca. I have like on Thursday I do a class for performance. Friday I do a class for improv for life. Like why the whole point of this podcast, or half the point at least, is why take an improv class if you're not interested in getting on stage. That's on Fridays, and then I do regular classes too. Right now I'm doing a class, improv plays, creating plays from scratch, and I can tell you that my students really like it. They're really having a good time, and it's when people rarely miss classes, that's when you know, "Oh, okay, like everybody comes every week." Today, I just want to talk about a real life example of improv. One of the tenets of improv in action. Uh, just going into this theme of how improv is not just great to watch on stage. It is. I mean, when it's good, it's amazing. When it's bad, it's cringing and you want to gouge your eyeballs out. But when it's good, you want to watch it. But it's also great in the real world. I have said this many times, but I live my life by the principles that I of improv. Like, it's like I live it, right? And this is one of these examples. So today we're gonna look at status. I haven't done a full podcast on status. I love teaching status. It's difficult but really rewarding. My students either love it or hate it, and because it is tough. It's very tough, but boy oh boy, it's a great tool. It's really good for dealing like in the real world and on stage with conflict. It's with rudeness. Makes you very flexible to handle different kinds of input. Um, and in the real world, it's really great, for people who are trying to like manipulate people. But I mean that I don't mean manipulate necessarily in a negative way, because sometimes it's in a good way. So, you can use high status to shut people down, or you can use low status to open people up. So you can affect the behavior. Maybe affect is better than manipulate. Using status. So when I'm talking about status, what I'm talking about in the comedic sense, not in the world sense. So it has nothing to do with your job, your title, your age, your social rank, your gender, your ethnicity. It has nothing to do with that, right? It's to do with a character's feeling of themselves in relation to other characters or the environment. So, and in comedy, status is used a lot, and when it is used, characters that have a lot of social status, like presidents, CEOs, army generals, the bosses, the owners, usually are low status, and vice versa. So, if you've ever seen the show MASH, I know it's been off for a long time, but that show first season was a classic status where the commander of the MASH unit, Colonel Blake, Henry Blake, was very low status and sort of the lowest ranking member of um, the army, the corporal radar, was very high status. In fact, he was so high status he could hear the helicopters before anybody else could. And a lot of comedy comes with high status characters who are fools. So there's the high status fool. If you've ever seen Alistair Forbes, really great at playing that high status fool. Um, anyway, so it's really good in comedy, but it's also really good, and people use it in real world. Status, in improv, it can help you control situations, remain flexible, as I said. And one thing it also can do is help you overcome your own limitations that your own logic brings to situations. We have default way of looking at things like, X is always bad or X is always good. But status helps you see other signs of these scenarios, and open up your brain, expand your mind, and develop empathy for different points of view. So, but in real life, status can really help you shut people down. If someone's being rude to you, or stand-up comics do this with hecklers all the time, use high status to shut them down. You can open people up by using low status, make your status a little bit lower than theirs, and they will feel more comfortable and will open up. And it also helps handle conflict without losing your cool. In fact, I grew up. I used to, when I was younger, do anything to avoid conflict. I despised conflict, and I couldn't handle it. So, but now, when conflict rears its ugly head, which it does occasionally, I it's not that I love it, but I see it as an opportunity, and I don't run from it. So, and one of the cool things about status, I forget the name of the effect. It's a bias. Like once you are aware of it, you start seeing it everywhere. And it's like that. So you see it in couples, and you can tell like who has the status. Parents and kids. Sometimes kids have status over parents. Actually, more and more now. Young kids who throw tantrums have status over their parents. They can manipulate, and in the workplace and social groups. So you see it everywhere. Okay, so I'm gonna switch now and talk about this real life example because I find it fascinating, and I encourage you to go and look up the YouTube clip. So this is from the 1960s, and it's two political commentators. There's a conservative guy called William F. Buckley Jr., and there was the liberal Gore Vidal. And these two gentlemen, in this, I guess, started in the 60s. I think they became to prominence during the Kennedy Nixon uh, presidential run. They are now the template for what TV has become. You got a guy from the one side and the guy from the other side, because there's only two sides, right? And you have them scream at each other, and it makes for really interesting TV. And, it does. I mean, I got to give it up to them. It makes for interesting TV. So overdone now, it's not interesting anymore to me, but still works. So you had William F. Buckley on the conservative, Gore Vidal on the liberal. And just a little aside, these two had way more in common than they had not in common. But they did hate each other. And they hated each other because, for one reason, I mean, many reasons, but Buckley was openly hostile. He was a deeply conservative Christian, and he was deeply hostile towards homosexuality. And Vidal happened to be gay, but in this time in the 60s, it was very you couldn't say that you were gay, obviously. I mean, I don't know if it's obvious anymore, but if he'd been outed as gay, it would have ended his career. And in that inner circle, like everybody knew that Gore Vidal was gay, but no one said it publicly. They kept it quiet. So in this one particular debate, and it's on YouTube, I would recommend you go see it. Just do Gore Vidal and William Buckley on the Vietnam War, where Buckley loses it. So they're debating the Vietnam War, and Buckley mentions the word fascism. And Gore Vidal just smiles at him and says, "Well, if anyone here is a crypto fascist, it's you." And Buckley got really mad at that comment, and he fired back, and he said, "You call me a fascist again, you queer, and I'll sock you." Queer being, a pejorative for a gay man. Um, and this happened on like live TV, could not be edited, so it went out. And after that happens, the camera pans over to Gore Vidal, who's got a big smile on his face, huge smile. He won. He sits there, he's smiling, and he's really calm. And that's what he wanted. He wanted to get Buckley upset him and get him to react, which he did. And even though it cost him the potential of being outed, he didn't care. What he cared about was winning. So that's the lesson for improv characters, is that, what matters in status is maintaining your status, or and to do that means that you have to lose in other ways potentially. So, how do you play a high status character who is homeless or eats out of dumpsters, right? How do you play a high status character who seems to have everything perfect in their lives? And again, once you see it, you see examples of real people who are like this. The person who seemingly has nothing but is so full of joy that they almost make you mad, or vice versa. The person who seems to have everything and is miserable. And it helps you, for the non-performers, get into that mindset. But for the performers, it's a very fun um, insight into human behavior, and very, very, very funny to watch too. And again, it's such a great tool. So today, we're talking about status and conflict. High status is because when it's taught, sometimes it's taught, or you can think of it as, well, a high status character would be like a real jerk. You just tell everybody to shut up and do everything. But to me, that's a very low status character, because they have a lot of concern about the way people see them. To me, a high status character is like the Buddha or Jesus. You can't really get them. Um, anyway, when someone insults you, and you're the worst thing that you want to do is get upset, right? Is Because then they've won, right? The moment you react emotionally, like Buckley did, the other person wins. So when someone says something like that seems rude, and you get upset, they've won. And that's why you never see stand-ups, the good ones, let hecklers win. They always win. So how do we do that? How do we handle like an insult and stay calm and collected? Well, the first thing that we do is we smile and we own the insult, and we treat it like what they just said was a compliment or was the perfect thing to say. So, for example, like this happens to me, and I've had this or worse things said to me, and I've responded exactly this way. Um, like if someone says to me, "Ralph, you're an idiot." My high status reply is, "Well, sir, you have an excellent eye for character." Right? Or I would say like, "An idiot. Oh, you got that completely wrong. I'm it's way worse than that. I'm a congenital moron." Because when you say yes to the insult, it takes away all of its sting. And when the sting is gone, that person who's insulted you has basically given you their best shot, and they didn't even dent your armor. And people have no idea what to do with that, and they just kind of get a little weird, and they leave. But the last thing they really tried to do is, and it's only ever happened to me once, where someone has tried it again. And boy, oh boy, that was one of my most fond memories of someone trying to double down on insulting me, and backfired both times on this guy big time. So it's the same tool on stage in the real world. Like I said, I live by these things, real quick. And I'm sure I've shared this story before, where one time I came out, and two guys were trying to steal my bike. And, rather than freaking out, and I don't recommend you do this because it might not have been safe, although there were thousands of people around not doing anything to save my bike. I just walked up to these two guys, smiled in their face, and said, "Hey, that's my bike." And guys, oh, it's a good bike. I'm like, "I know, I'd like to keep it." But I was smiling and having a good time, no threat. And they got out of there so fast, it wasn't even funny, although it was funny. And I've talked about high status, but low status also works very, very well too. You got to give a talk in front of 1,000 people, and you're nervous. Open with a bit of low status self-deprecation, and people will instantly like you, because when you walk on a stage, everybody's like, "Okay, who's this person? What do they got to tell me?" And the minute you humanize yourself with a little low status, they go, "Oh, you're not a threat," and they like you. So Al Gore, former vice president of the U.S., when he was on the speaking tour in the like early part of the century, he used to open up his talks by saying, "Hello, my name is Al Gore. I used to be the president of the United States," and that is a reference to the infamous or famous 2000 election where he won the popular vote, but then it went to the Supreme Court, and eventually they elected George Bush was called the president after Al Gore conceded. Okay, so in closing, I just want to recommend Status. It may be something you've never heard of or never considered, or have been taught and may have been taught it in a way that's not helpful. Um, because for me, Status has to be fun, right? It's got to be fun and playful. It can't be strident or pathetic. Like it's got to be joyous. Even low status too. Low status is joyous. High status is joyous. It's not low status is not pathetic and high status is not strident, right? Those are different views. Like the myth of the alpha male. To me, an alpha male, like someone who's got to be like, Donald Trump, whether you like him or not or hate him, he's full of bravado and he's boisterous, and and bullies are the same way. They're not high status, they're low status. They're very broken on the inside, and they cover it up with a lot of false bravado. That's low status to me. That's and not a fun kind of low status. It's just it's a sad kind of low status. Anyway, that's my time. My name has been Ralph. Come visit us at socap.ca. Come take a class, see a show, drop me a line. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Bye.